Welcome back, fellow geniuses, and today we're going to talk about the causes of World War II and what really leads up to the war. Now, some of this is review because obviously we already know that, Europe and most of the world embrace strong dictatorships, and you also know that, Hitler has this grab for power around the world, but some of this will be new in that what happens when the war actually starts, and what kind of is the last few waning days before war begins, what actually gets the rest of this world into World War II. So for today, we're calling it Causes of the War. This might be a little bit of a longer video, so don't worry, this will probably be one of the longer ones we have, but I just want you to kind of understand that before we go into this. So, causes of World War II. Now, there are short-term causes, and there are like the immediate causes, and then there are long-term causes. Some of the long-term causes, obviously, the Treaty of Versailles and World War I, those harsh treatments that Germany had to abide by after the war, really create problems in Germany. You also get strong dictatorships in Germany, Italy, Japan, and the Soviet Union, as we talked about already. You get the severe economic problems that existed in Europe and Asia due to the Great Depression. Italy, Germany, and Japan also expand their territory. They start to colonize and imperialize and move out and take over places. You get the policy of appeasement, which fails, which is what we're going to talk about in the second half of this video. But the immediate cause is Germany invades Poland, and that's incredibly important. And because Poland, if you remember, was created after World War I as part of the Treaty of Versailles. And you also have the Japanese attacking U.S. naval base at Pearl Harbor. That's what's going to bring the United States into war. So remember, the harsh Treaty of Versailles, I'm just going to kind of move quickly through this. The harsh conditions of the Treaty of Versailles, they had to accept full blame for the war. Germany had to pay reparations in upwards of $33 billion. They had to reduce their army to 100,000 soldiers, have no planes, tanks, or artillery, and they lost territory. The Rhineland and Poland, they're going to come back and get that one in particular. You also have the worldwide depression. Remember, the stock market in 1929 collapses. It affects the United States, but it also affects the world over economic markets. It's going to sink the countries that are already struggling to get back on their feet after World War I into a deeper and deeper hole. Germany is a great example of that. Adolf Hitler's going to come along. He's going to militarize. He's going to find people jobs. He's going to give them things to do, and he's going to win over their trust. You have the rise of the dictators. Remember, we have Adolf Hitler, Benito Mussolini, and we have Hideki Tojo and Emperor Hirohito are part of the Axis powers. Then you also have Joseph Stalin, who's a dictator, who will eventually become part of the Allies, but at the beginning of the war, he is not quite so friendly to the group. Let's talk about the expanded territory. Again, this is just a bit of a rehash of what we already talked about, but Mussolini wants to rebuild recreate the Roman Empire, and he wants to do it this time in Africa. By 1935, the Italian army invades Ethiopia. You also have Adolf Hitler. Remember, he needs Lebensraum, that living space, and so he's going to enact what's called the Anschluss in 1938. That is Germany absorbing Austria into the Reich. If you remember, when we looked at the ballots and we looked at the propaganda that happened at this time, you see that really they're doing it in such a way that it manipulates the Austrians to really buy into this system pretty early on. And this is actually going to last until the end of the war, this Anschluss, this reunification or unification of Germany and Austria. You also have the Japanese, who in 1931 begin to expand their army. They move into Manchuria, remember? Then they're going to take over most of northern China and eventually move down into southern China. And as the war breaks out, they're going to own pretty much all of China at one point, and they're going to control it until the end of the war as well. Now, here is the most important part, and one of the biggest and most influential causes of the war is appeasement. On March 7th, 1936, Hitler sends troops into the Rhineland. Remember, that's that stretch of land that separates France and Germany, created after World War I as a buffer zone, that demilitarized zone. And he moves in there because he feels like it's their land, they should own it, that it's been years since the Treaty of Versailles. There's no reason to continue this charade, as he would call it, of a buffer zone, because there's no need for it. The Germans are largely peaceful, in his words. Now, Great Britain begins the practice of what's known as appeasement. And appeasement is an act of getting into an enemy's demands in hopes of avoiding further conflict. See, Great Britain was worried that they might start another war if they don't give Hitler, if they don't kind of bend into his, what they called reasonable demands. And they thought, sure, Rhineland used to be part of your territory. You've been largely peaceful, it seems, so we'll give you this territory. Now, in 1938, Hitler demands that Czechoslovakia cede what was known as the Sudetenland. That's that stretch of land that kind of at the top and the kind of top and northwest of Germany. It is, again, part of Germany before World War I. They have to give up that territory as part of the Treaty of Versailles. And he claimed that the German population living there, the people who spoke German, were being mistreated. And he actually uses the Treaty of Versailles to his advantage and says, well, look, you said people who speak the same language, who have similar backgrounds, they should all rule each other. And so we should be able to have part of the Sudetenland. We should have this land come back into the German Reich. Now, at the Munich conference in September of 1938, Britain and France agreed to Hitler's demands. Again, they appease him, a policy that came to be known as appeasement. They give him this land and say, all right, well, you've got the Rhineland, you've got the Sudetenland, you should be happy. That's pretty darn good. It's not, though. And in 1938, March of 1939, Hitler invades the rest of Czechoslovakia, which breaks the deal he made at the Munich conference. Now, Hitler then turns his attention towards Poland, to the east. But he didn't want to anger Joseph Stalin, who was right there, who's on the other side of Poland. So he ends up in 1939, him and the Soviet Union sign what's called the Nazi-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact. And the idea is that we will not attack each other. We'll basically both move in, we'll both take our share of Poland, and then we won't attack each other. A lot of historians believe that Hitler remembered at least a little bit about World War I and the Schlieffen Plan, and knew that if he ended up having to fight Britain and France, if he didn't sign some kind of agreement with Russia, he would end up fighting a two-front war. So the Nazi-Soviet Non-Aggression Pact is basically that. It's a way to avoid that two-front war. He knows good and well that eventually he's probably going to have to fight the Soviet Union because he is greedy and money and hungry for power and hungry for control of most of all, if not all of the world. And he has a very low view of the Soviets. He sees them as subhumans, as lesser. They're going to be a group that is persecuted a lot during the Holocaust. Soviet POWs are killed in record numbers, something we've never seen before. So Hitler and Stalin, they promised not to attack each other. The pact gives Hitler the freedom to invade Poland. On September 1st, 1939, German forces invade Poland, and 2 days later, Britain and France declare war on Germany. They said that was kind of the line in the sand. We did not give you permission to take over Poland. If you take over Poland, you're going to suffer the consequences, i.e. we're going to attack you. And that's exactly what happens. They end up attacking, and this is kind of the immediate outcome, the immediate break of World War II, sorry. Woo, it's been a long day. Now, the Germans used an attack strategy called Blitzkrieg, which means lightning war. So, when they decide to take over Poland, they're going to do it very quickly. They're going to load up all of their soldiers, and they're going to basically rush. If you think about it, if you know football terms at all, a blitz is when the defense all rushes right towards the quarterback. This is kind of the same thing. They're going to take all of their military, and they're going to charge right towards Poland as fast as they can. They will also do this towards the French and the British when war actually breaks out. And they are really good at this because they use what's known as the Panzer divisions. These are armed columns of troops that are supported by airplanes and around 300 tanks. So they're going to have massive war machines moving in and taking over these areas. Now, the forces of the Blitzkrieg broke quickly through Poland's defenses, and within 4 weeks, Poland surrenders. So within a month, Poland ceases to exist as a sovereign state. It now is controlled by Germany, and it's going to be controlled by Germany through the majority of the war until the Allies begin to move in and liberate these places. Remember, Great Britain and France drew the line in the sand and said, if you attack Poland, we're going to attack you. So by April 4th, 1940, Germany did another blitzkrieg against Denmark and Norway in kind of preparation for this large-scale attack. And then 1 month later, on March 10th, Germany launched an attack on the Netherlands, Belgium, and France. They kind of poured around what was known as the Maginot Line. It was this kind of almost like imaginary line that was going to protect France from Germany. They pour through Belgium and France, similar to what they did at the beginning of World War I. And they're going to move into France, and they swiftly move through France. The French and British forces were taken by surprise when the Germans went around the Maginot Line instead of going through it. The Germans trapped the French troops and the entire British army in the beaches of Dunkirk, And it was at this point that it looked very dire for the British and French forces. The entire British army and what was left of the French forces were all on the beaches of Dunkirk. And they're saved at the last moment by what was known as the bathtub navy, which we will talk about tomorrow in class. But they are there, their backs are to the ocean, and the people of Britain come across the English Channel and save them at the last moment. Now, once Germany takes Blitzkrieg on France, France falls, and it signs an armistice on June 22nd, 1940. An armistice is a truce or agreement to end fighting because the French forces were done. Germany now controlled all of Western and Central Europe. Only Britain stood in the way of Hitler's army. After Dunkirk, the British appealed to the U.S. for help, but President Roosevelt, he denounces the Axis powers, but follows the policy of isolation. If you think about this, within about a 4-month period, there's Czechoslovakia has fallen. Austria is part of the Reich. Poland is now fallen. France has fallen. Belgium's fallen. Netherlands have fallen. Norway has fallen. All to German control. I think there's no kind of more of a haunting picture than what you see here of Adolf Hitler surveying his conquest in France by visiting the Eiffel Tower and getting his picture taken in front of it. That is pretty much it for today. We are going to talk much, much more about what happens now that war has actually begun. The drums of war have started. We're going to get deeper and deeper. They're going to move. The Axis powers are going to continue to try to expand. Japan is going to take over much of Southeast Asia. Italy is going to move into, and Germany are going to move into Africa. And eventually the United States is going to be brought into the war. But understand first and foremost, these are the things that made war start. The immediate and instant cause is Hitler's invasion of Poland, because all of that appeasement had led all the way up to him thinking he could do whatever he wanted to do and there would be no repercussions. And the Allies finally call his bluff, but it was a little too late. He had already had a lot of power. So have a great rest of your day. If you have any other questions, please make sure that you write them down in your notes, bring them to class with you, and we will talk much, much more about this tomorrow. Have a great day, everybody.